All right, let's get started here today. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. This is the informational webinar for the Feeder of the Future prize competition. This is a prize competition from the American Made program in partnership with the U.S. Department of Energy, and we're very happy to have you here to learn all about it. My name is Lance Holly, and I'm joined here with several colleagues from the American Made program as well as the Department of Energy, and we are going to run you through all the details of this prize, what you need to know about the background, how to compete, what to submit, how all of it works. And we're also going to have some time at the end for you to be able to ask some questions. Again, we're happy to have you here. This is a recorded webinar. We are going to be providing a copy of this webinar as a recording and as the slides at the end, so you can come back and reference items later. All right. So here's a summary of what we're going to be covering today. First, we're going to give a high-level overview of the American Made program. Then I'm going to hand it over to our colleagues at the Office of Electricity to talk a little bit about their office and how it connects to this prize opportunity. Then we're going to dig into all the details about the Feeder of the Future prize. And that's going to be everything from how to submit your submission materials, what those are going to look like, how they'll be scored, as well as some tips and tricks to navigating the submission portal, which is going to be the last item, which is the HeroX platform, and all you need to know to make sure you've got what you need to submit and compete in this prize. And as I said, at the end, we'll have some time for Q&A. If you do have questions that come up over the course of this presentation, go ahead and put them in the chat in the Q&A feature, as has been described there, and then we can address them at the end. We'll also have an opportunity for you to submit questions separate from today's webinar through our email address. So just be thinking if anything comes up as we go here. And again, yes, we will provide a copy of these slides and the recording afterwards. So I'd like to start with an overview of the American Made program. Some of you may be familiar with this program from other prize competitions, and for others of you, it may be new. American Made is what we call the Fast Track to Energy Innovation. This is a program that is funded by the U.S. Department of Energy, and through it, we incentivize innovation through prize competitions like this one, collegiate competitions, vouchers, and opportunities to work with our network of experts. The whole idea here is to help science and technology solutions go further, faster. This program has actually been around for the past 7 or so years. It started in 2018. Over those last 7 years, as you can see here, we have been on a mission to supercharge a revolution of bold ideas, again, fast tracking your ideas as prize competitors to accelerate energy innovation. We've had over 100 prizes like this one that you're looking at here. We have over 550 network members around the country, and over those years have funded, through prize winnings, over 1,200 different teams through prize competitions like this Feeder of the Future prize. So I just wanted to share a little bit about this so you have some context of how this prize fits into the larger ecosystem of funding opportunities for energy innovation ideas. So that's the American Made program, which is again part of the U.S. Department of Energy. So I would like to now quickly turn it over to our colleague Chris Irwin from the Office of Electricity at DOE to tell you a little bit about that office and the connection to this prize.
So, hey everybody, thank you for moving to the next slide, Lance. Chris Irwin, I work at the Office of Electricity inside the Department of Energy. And so, the quick summary of us is that we're the office of the grid. Mostly everything between generation and the customer is part of our research and development focus. We have a lot of diverse programs focused on advancing our electric infrastructure. We work on energy storage, we work on microgrids, we work on solid state transformers and advanced assets. We work on control systems. We also have a fairly large effort on simulation and modeling. And so that's part of the impetus for why we want to talk about the Feeder of the Future prize today is the fact is that more and more loads are being served by electricity rather than their traditional fuel. And on top of that, we have a lot more electricity serving big loads across the country. And so we need to get smarter about our distribution system designs. And we need to sort of give people information about how they can evolve into the future. Um, One of the challenges that we see at the Office of Electricity is that we have about 3,000 electric utilities across the United States. All of them have a history, all of them have a tradition of how things have been done at their utility. Um, and lots of them are good. But most utilities are facing load growth right now. And if they continue to sort of innovate only within their own envelope using their own design rules, it doesn't mean that everybody is going to wind up at a better place. And so, really, part of the intent of the Feeder of the Future prize is to give people examples of what would be an excellent distribution system design if they're looking at doubling the load that they serve in their territory. What would be an excellent distribution design if they had to replace it all? So it's like those are some very big dreams on it, but really is if we get good submissions in the Feeder of the Future contest on things like that, we think that it will inspire the people that build the actual distribution infrastructure. It will help them think about how to meet the future with fewer stranded assets, with more capability moving into it. And so it's really sort of an exciting job that you get to take on as a volunteer and potential prize winner is to help us show people what's possible when we grow the system, when we listen to the ideas of other people about what would be an interesting or innovative thing to do with distribution system infrastructure. So that's the Feeder of the Future contest. We have some aspirations for doing different versions of this contest, but in this one, Lance is going to go over some of the details of it. But we're trying to open the gates to listen to you and to listen to some of your ideas out there. The other thing is, I'm sure many of you would like to win the prize specifically, but if you have colleagues or if you want to make it a friendly competition, please help us spread the word about the Feeder of the Future contest, since we've been able to extend the competition deadline due to random things that happen in the government today. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Lance and look forward to hearing your questions, or at least being glad that you're here on the line for the webinar today.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. So now everyone has a little bit of context and background from the Office of Electricity side and the American-made side. So hopefully everyone has a good sense of how this competition kind of fits into the different areas of funding opportunities. So as Chris said, we're now going to go into some of the details about this prize specifically that will hopefully answer some of your questions about what it means to participate and to compete. So as a high-level overview, the Feeder of the Future prize is a $100,000 single-phase competition, which aims to encourage the development of advanced distribution system feeder and circuit designs that align with the evolving demands of 21st century power delivery, including dynamic loads, on-site generation, and distributed devices. The whole goal is for prize solutions to influence both future feeder deployments, greenfield, as well as provide an upgrade path to existing distribution feeders or brownfield. So if you're familiar with American-made prize competitions, you might have seen them or been part of others in the past. Some are multiple phases. This is a single phase competition. So it is active right now. There's a submission deadline that we'll talk about. Submissions will be received, processed, scored, and reviewed, and then winners announced. In terms of the prize pools, competitors in the prize will focus on fostering innovative feeder designs for consumers in 3 different tracks. We have the rural track, the suburban track, and the urban track. I'm going to cover those in a second here. So that you're aware, competitors are limited to 3 submissions in total and a maximum of 2 submissions per track if you're submitting multiple within the same track. For example, you could submit 3 different submissions, 1 in each track, or you could submit 2 to the same track and maybe 1 to another. You also don't have to, perfectly fine with just 1 submission, but this gives you a sense of what the expectation is if you are looking across different tracks or have multiple ideas within the same track. Across all 3 of these tracks, we will have a cumulative total of up to 10 winning submissions that will each receive $8,000 in cash prizes, as well as up to 8 runners up that will receive $2,500 in cash prizes. 2 things to say on these, just making sure it is clear that these 10 winners, it is not per track, it is over across all 3 of the tracks, same for those runners up. And very important to note, these are cash prizes. This is not a grant program. This is a prize competition. So if you put forth the materials that based on the scoring are deemed to be meritorious and you are selected as a winner, it is a cash prize that you are given to do with as you see fit, to take your design, to take your innovations and ideas forward into the future. So again, up to 10 winners will receive $8,000 each and up to 8 runners up for $2,500 each. Let's talk about the 3 tracks here. And again, if you do have questions that are coming up, feel free to put them in the chat for us to cover at the end. So the first track is the rural feeder track, and this is where teams will focus on areas that have agricultural and industrial customers who are more likely to have power interruptions and live far from generation sources. The second track is suburban, where teams will design solutions for suburban areas with a high use of behind-the-meter assets. And then track 3, the urban feeder, where teams conceptualize a feeder that will address the exponential growth of electric using device deployment in an urban environment by providing en-route and home curbside workplace charging. So each of these 3 tracks are distinct and separate. There are further definitions that you can see in our rules document that define what does rural mean, what does suburban mean, and what does urban mean as it relates to population, and the amount of electricity behind the feeder and other items there. So make sure that you're reading the full list. And I think we may have some further explanations going in the chat there. But again, the rules document for this prize does have full descriptions of each one here. And as a reminder, you can submit across multiple tracks, but you are limited to a total of 3 submissions or 2 if you are putting them both in the same track. As Chris mentioned earlier, the submission deadline for all 3 of these tracks is January 29th at 5 p.m. Eastern. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that they have time to look into these different tracks and different options for them, putting together submissions potentially across multiple tracks as well ahead of January 29th. The overall objective of these submissions within the different tracks is that you will, as a competitor, describe your feeder of the future designs and provide justification that your designs are an improvement over the traditional feeder designs for your chosen track. As a competitor, you will also describe how your designs could address any cybersecurity concerns, adaptability to changing loads and system conditions, modularity, and that your design will contribute to promoting economic prosperity. So this is meant to cover sort of a high level objective of what are you trying to do? What's the big picture? But of course, there are specifics within there. And so that's where we get to these different submission materials. I want to make sure that everybody leaves today with a clear understanding of what is expected of you as a competitor related to your submission package. You can see on the slide here that there are 4 total items in a submission package, 3 of which are required and 1 of which is optional. And we're going to go through each one in a bit more detail, but so that you know up front, there's an online public video component. There's a cover page and narrative document, and then there's the submission summary slide. The fourth item is optional, which is letters of commitment or support. We also noted on here that a couple of these items are made public. So your video and your summary slide are both made public. So make sure those items would only have anything that you are okay sharing with the public. Your cover page and narrative document are not public. So if you have more specific items that you don't want folks outside of the judging panel to review, then those can be safe in there. And if you do have questions on those, you can let us know. Please note that all these submission materials need to be submitted as PDF files, of course, with the exception of the online public video, which is going to be hosted on YouTube or Vimeo, and you just provide the link to that video. So these are the four different submission materials. Let's go through them one at a time so you have a good sense of what is entailed in each. Starting with the video. So again, this is a public-facing video. This is a scored submission element. And the suggested content you can see here at the top. So the video should show or demonstrate the real-world problem that you're solving, how your design is different from traditional feeder designs, and how it leapfrogs incremental upgrades. And then who you are, who's your organization, who are your key team members, whatever is applicable to your situation, and what motivates you to be in this space and compete in a prize like this. In terms of the judging aspect or the scoring element, judges will consider three criteria related to your video. So does your video explain a compelling real-world problem? How does it describe your unique innovation? And then does the video show a knowledgeable and skillful competitor or team? So we always encourage competitors to take a look at what is the content suggested for this item, in this case, the video, but also what are the judges going to be looking at for scoring and making sure you're taking that all into account. Oh, you can see over here, we have a little tips and tricks box. Do keep in mind a video is a great first impression. It's the first thing that a scoring panel will look at, and it just shows who are you and what's your involvement in this area and what's your passion and motivation in this type of innovation. Be creative, but also focus on your content. You don't need to go above and beyond with production values or anything. Focus on the content. That's what the judges will be looking at there. But again, keep in mind, this is a great chance to introduce yourself. American Made, as I mentioned a few slides back, has had a lot of prize competitions over the years. You can go see public-facing content from other winning teams of other competitions, such as their videos, if you'd like to see some examples. And we also encourage you to get feedback before you put your video online from other folks that you may be connected with. You could use this video for multiple uses, not just this competition. So definitely get some feedback before putting that out there. So this covers the online public video element. And that's kind of your introduction. Then that gets to your main cover page and then the narrative. And these are going to be your main scored documents. Your cover page is simply your basic information about your submission. This is your title, your team name, your short description, your location, your key project members, and any other partners. This is a private document. It is not scored. It just introduces the rest of your narrative document. I would like to strongly emphasize one point, though. When you're thinking of a project title and a team name, remember that if you are selected as a winner, that title and team name will be used as your public-facing recognition. So please make sure you're choosing something that is appropriate to your situation and that you want to be linked to you if you are selected as a winner. And again, this cover page is connected to your narrative submission. We just wanted to break out what goes on here separately, but really we get to the narrative here. This is the primary scored submission item that will take most of your explanation and description for your solution here. This is a private document only seen by the scoring panel here, and it has 4 different questions that you're going to be answering. The word limit for all 4 as a whole must not exceed 3,000 words, and there will be a section, we have a submission template. There's a section at the bottom where you can list your word count. Each individual question doesn't have a word count, but the whole aggregate has a word count limit of 3,000 words. You can also include up to 5 supporting images, figures, or graphs, and that's up to you based on your situation and if that's applicable or not. The reviewers are going to score the questions based on the content that you provide. The 4 questions, number 1 is the problem. So what is the problem with typical feeder designs in relation to your chosen track, and why is solving it important? Question 2 is the solution. What is your feeder design solution for your chosen track, and why will it be successful? Question 3 is about your accomplishments and your team. So what have you done so far to date to develop your feeder design, and what makes your team uniquely capable of succeeding? And question 4 is your plan for the future. Is your feeder ready for the future? Now, there is a full breakdown in the rules document that describe different points within each of these questions that is very similar to what you saw for the video. There's suggested content, and then there's also how the judges will be scoring each of those. So we highly encourage folks to be taking a look at that rules document as you are putting together the answers to these questions so that you're able to hit all of the points and put your best foot forward. So this covers the narrative, which again is the largest of the scored items here. The third main item is your submission summary slide. And this is a, as I mentioned earlier, public-facing item. It is not scored, but it is meant to be, again, a public-facing, quick, succinct summary that introduces you as a competitor and your mission and your idea, your product. There's no template for this. You're free to present the information in the format you'd like, but it is a one-slide item, and you'll turn this into a PDF for the platform where you submit it. Just make sure that this is exactly what you would want projected, for example, in a conference room. Make sure it's readable, make sure it calls attention to the most pertinent information to sort of introduce and summarize your team and innovation. The last one is, as we mentioned before, optional. These are letters of support or commitment. And we ask that you please, if you choose to include these, we ask that you please limit them to each letter being 1 page long. It could be a letter of support or intent or commitment, whatever makes sense for your situation from any relevant entities that you would like to include to provide further context on your situation. Again, each letter should just be 1 page. You can have multiple letters, just combine them into a single PDF for submission. That is an optional portion. As a reminder, you do not have to have it there. Depends on your own situation, what you'd like to include. So just to make sure we've recapped everything, there's the required online public video. There's the required narrative document that starts with a cover page. There's the required submission summary slide, which will be a public-facing introduction of who you are and what you're working on, and then the optional letters of support or commitment. All of these items are described in further detail in the rules document. We highly encourage you to be looking at that as you put these materials together. All right. So I know that was a lot of detail about what goes into the actual submission. And the last thing we're going to cover is how you take those materials and make sure that they are delivered to the prize competition to be evaluated. And for that, we use what is called the HeroX platform. And if you're already following the prize on HeroX, that's great. And if you're not, go ahead and do that now. So HeroX is a platform that we use for all of the American-made prize competitions. If you look it up right now, you'll see this one front and center here, and then you can just follow the prize once you're on the page by clicking follow in the top right. We'll put a link in the chat as well, but you can see the URL. And on the HeroX page for this prize, you can follow it for updates. So anytime the prize team posts an update, you will get a notification about that. You can read the official rules document on this site. You can watch a recording of today's webinar and access any of the slides from this webinar. And you can submit your application materials, most importantly. So this is where you will go as your hub for all things Feeder of the Future. This is also where you can find any templates or supplemental materials, any updates that cover important information. So go ahead and make sure you're following that prize if you're not already. Which leads us to the last and most important reminders about the prize. So as we mentioned earlier, and as Chris said, the submission deadline has been extended to give folks some more time to put together materials. January 29th is your submission deadline date. And very important to remember that 5 p.m. Eastern is a hard deadline. All of your materials must be in by 5 p.m. Eastern on the 29th. The portal closes for submissions at that time. We encourage you to anticipate possible connectivity issues or anything that may happen with your internet or uploads. Please don't wait till the last second. Make sure you've got your materials together. Make sure you've taken a look at the submission form on the platform and you know what needs to go in there so you're not surprised at the last second, anything that would put your submission in jeopardy. The rules document is in the resources section on the HeroX site. You can go through the rules as we've talked about here and look into all the different sections that cover eligibility, the 3 different tracks, and all of these submission items and how they will be scored. And if you have any questions, obviously we're going to be taking some here in this webinar, but if anything else comes up in the future, you can always reach out to us directly at this email address, as you can see on the screen here, if you have something that you would like us to respond to outside of today's webinar. So with that, we have covered an overview of all the materials that go into this prize, how to compete and submit, and we've talked about the background of the objectives of this prize as well. Hopefully everyone has a solid understanding of this competition and how to participate. And we want to now dedicate some time to any of your questions that you may have had as this has come up. And we'll start with what has already been put in the chat. I will turn it over to my colleagues to recommend. Are there any places we should start with folks' questions?
Hey Lance, thank you for covering all that information. We haven't had any questions come in so far, so I think we give it a couple more minutes. There is quite a bit of information in the chat that I just want to call attention to, things that Lance mentioned, but additional links that I think are helpful. So a link directly to those rules in case there's anything about eligibility or submissions that you have specific questions about, as well as just a link to HeroX, and I can drop that again. But feel free to
Excellent.
add anything to the chat or send your question directly to our prize inbox, and we will have a prize administrator get back to you when they can.
So Carly and Lance, there's just one other thing that I'd add, and it was mentioned this in something that you said up front, Lance, is that one of the challenges that I think utilities face as they're headed towards the future is there's an incremental way that they keep up with load growth and that they keep up with the needs of the system and the customers that they serve. And so sometimes that can lead to, it's like, what is the least cost solution I can make on that part of the distribution system? What is the cheapest thing that I can do that will keep us going for another couple of years? And so it definitely is, targets the short-term affordability of the system, and lots of systems thrive and flourish in this way. But one of the risks to a purely incremental approach to upgrades and things like that is that you can get boxed in, is that some of those assets that you deploy to solve the next 1 or 2 years of load growth is going to get stuck there. And so you don't have a way of growing towards something that you will appreciate in the future. And so that's another thing that I'm hoping for on the submissions for Feeder of the Future, is that it's not necessarily something that a distribution system engineer in Kansas will say. It's like, oh, I'm going to drop that feeder into my system, but it'll help them think about how to avoid the pitfalls of a purely sort of Band-Aid based incremental approach to modernization. So just wanted to add that in there and express my appreciation for the participants in the webinar and folks coming to listen.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris and team, for being here and supporting this prize opportunity. Very exciting to have folks looking into this and competing here. Again, if any other questions do come up, as Carly put in the chat, please don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, thank you for your time and attention today. This recording and slides will be up on the HeroX platform very soon. So if you'd like to reference anything, you can. And best of luck to everyone interested in competing.
Bye all.
Thank you.